Hey guys, it's Libby and welcome to Soliloweek, the week where we go through each of Hamlet's 7 soliloquies from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. If you are new here, there is a link to the playlist where you can see all of the other videos in this series, and there's also a link to a Google Doc, which you will find helpful because I have written out all of the soliloquies in prose form instead of in verse form, which is sort of the main theme of this video series. We're trying to understand what these speeches literally mean. Today we're doing one of the shorter and easier speeches in the play. This is the "O all you host of heaven" soliloquy from Act 1, Scene 5. To remind you of the context, up to now in Act 1, Scene 5, Hamlet has been talking with the ghosts. In Act 1, Scene 4, he got away from Horatio and the other guards, and against their advice decided to follow the ghost. The ghost tells him, "Hamlet, I am your father," and that he didn't die naturally. He was in fact murdered by his brother. Now, I will confess that there's not that much going on in this speech. You know, I don't think philosophers will spend as much time with this speech as they would with Broken Peasant Slave or To Be or Not to Be. But if you need to find something interesting in this soliloquy to make you continue watching this video, then I think the interesting thing about this one is that it is the one that is most likely to have been actually uttered aloud if Hamlet was a real person instead of a fictional character. For pretty much all of the other soliloquies, we are meant to understand that we are getting Hamlet's thought processes, which he is just speaking so that we actually know what they are and we are all suspending our disbelief while we experience this. But this one has several lines directly addressed to the ghost who has just recently exited and who, as we will see later in Scene 5, is still kind of there as we hear his voice from under the stage, and so Hamlet might sort of still be sensing the presence of the ghost and addressing it. So I think this one would actually have been spoken out loud. So let's now take a look at the actual text. For this first reading, my goal is to make it very clear where the breaks in ideas are. So that's what I'm going to be emphasizing here. "Oh, all you host of heaven. O earth. What else? And shall I couple hell? O fie. Hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee, I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee. Yea, from the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past that youth and observation copied there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven. O most pernicious woman, O villain, villain, smiling damned villain, my tables, meet it is I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I am sure it may be so in Denmark. So, uncle, there you are. Now to my word. It is adieu, adieu, remember me. I have sworn." So taking a step back and sort of looking at the structure of the pacing, we can see that there's a lot of similarities to his first soliloquy. There's a lot of short exclamations, "O all you host of heaven," "O fie," remember thee, yes, by heaven." And then somewhere in the second half, we get a slightly longer, more coherent section before we return to this sort of jumping around from one thought to another with lots of unconnected exclamations, and we end with a sort of resolve. He doesn't end his soliloquies in as manic a way as he carries on with them. There's also some similarities in the contents. Again, we have a lot of unidentified antecedents. He doesn't say anything about Gertrude or Claudius in most of the speech, and then out of nowhere we get "O most pernicious woman" and "O villain, villain, smiling damned villain," which we know is referring to the two of them, but he doesn't list them by name. And the invective against the two of them in the second half is also something that has carried over from his first soliloquy. So not a lot of change in Hamlet's character at this point, just a change in what information he has. He has new reason for hating Gertrude and Claudius, who he was already really mad at in the first soliloquy. I think the text here is pretty easy to understand, but let's take a closer look just in case. So we've got, oh, all you host of heaven. That means the people who reside in heaven, so presumably angels. Oh, earth. What else? And shall I couple hell? Nah, not sure. The thing to keep in mind here is that for presumably Hamlet, as well as the audience this was intended for, heaven and hell are real places. I think most of the audience also literally believed in ghosts. So a lot of times now, when people say, oh heaven, oh hell, we're thinking about it in a metaphorical context, but for Hamlet and the original audience, he is literally invoking real places and naturally expresses some hesitancy about calling on hell. Then we get our friend from the last soliloquy, O Phi, which just stands by itself. And then, hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. The phrase, hold my heart, is a command which is addressed to his heart. That's why in most editions you'll find a comma after the word hold. My heart is not the direct object of the word hold, it's evocative. So he's saying either hold, as in stand up to all of the emotions you are experiencing, or, and we can understand both meanings here, hold as in stop beating so fast, like just take a break. And he also addresses his sinews, saying, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. He is worried that he's going to collapse like an old man, and he wants his body to be able to stand. Then we get remember thee, which is an echo of what the ghost said right as he was leaving, adieu, adieu, remember me. And then I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds seat in this distracted globe. I think we should embrace the double meaning of globe here. He can be referring literally to his head as the globe, and distracted is a term which at this point is associated with insanity. So we get that sneaking in a little bit here. Here, Hamlet is saying that this sort of spiritual experience has driven him to distraction. But we can also understand globe to mean the earth and all of the people on the earth, and he's saying, the whole world is mad. And then he repeats again, remember thee, and follows it up with, yea, from the table of my memory, I'll wipe away all trivial fond records. So I will get rid of all the other memories I have and only hold this one memory of what you have told me. And he expands on that imagery a bit. He says, all saws of books. Saws here means maxims, so sort of things that he had memorized out of books. All forms, maybe a slight Plato reference here. All pressures past. If you imagine when you're writing, you're putting pressure on a piece of paper with your pen or pencil. And so if we imagine the brain like a piece of paper, he's getting rid of all those old pressures. That youth and observation copied there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain. So we've got this whole extended metaphor of the mind as a book, unmixed with baser matter. I hope you enjoyed that brief bit of coherency, because we're moving back to the unconnected exclamations. Yes, by heaven. Oh, most pernicious woman. Oh, villain, villain, smiling, damned villain. And then he says, my tables. He's not referring to something that you would lay your dinner out upon, but tables of things you're copying down. A lot of education in the early modern period consisted of copying things out by hand. And if you just write things down, you will remember them. So he's written down this thing about Claudius, which means he can now say, so, uncle, there you are. Now to my word, it is adieu, adieu, remember me, I have sworn. So now let's get it from the book in verse as it was meant to be heard. O all you host of heaven, O earth, what else? And shall I couple hell? O fie, hold, hold my heart, and you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee. I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe, remember thee? Yea, from the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past that youth and observation copied there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, by heaven. O most pernicious woman, O villain, villain, smiling damned villain, my tables. Meet it is, I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I'm sure it may be so in Denmark. So, uncle, there you are. Now, to my word. It is adieu, adieu, remember me. I have sworn't. Thank you all very much for watching. Tune in tomorrow where we will discuss the ways in which Hamlet is a rogue and peasant slave.